You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 358 of East San Antonio's favorite podcast. Jeremiah Morrell, executive video producer, audio engineer, life coach Zach Burcham behind the camera. Welcome, Zachary.
Unqualified as a life coach.
You got 40 some years of experience, and you're doing great. Today's episode, we are going to be sitting with a couple of childhood bros that have gone on to do some really cool things together. We got the returning Gavin Newton, who runs Runnings Racing, and he's a spotter this weekend. For our other guest, Presley Sorah, both guys are from Wayne County, Indiana, Cambridge City area, Lincoln.
Yep.
All right, we're not going to give away social security numbers, but they're very local. We'll tell you that. And Presley's going to be making a start this weekend at IRP, the home racetrack for the ARCA series. So we're going to get into that. It's going to be really fun. Talk about how they came to know each other and how in the world you go from iRacing into the NASCAR feeder series, and how mom and dad said this was okay. This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you, other times we'll make you laugh, but hopefully you'll always learn something new. If you are a member of our Patreon, you just got yourself 15 minutes of bonus content, learning about my skills as a fabricator. And we got to try out some sponsor product today from Presley. If you were watching the live stream, you see a couple bottles on there. Jump on patreon.com/BossHogOfLiberty. We'll get you out of the Facebook group. You can watch the video, or the audio gets dropped straight into a file and emailed to you every night when the show comes out. If you're there, you also get the show notes in advance. So any links, anything we put together, you can follow along at home and have an idea of what's coming along. We try to put you at the top of the list for questions as we're going along. And if you are at the $50 or more a month club, you get your name, your business, whatever you got going on. You get a special mention at the top of the show. At this time, that is John Phillips, Andy Moore Buick GMC, the official car dealer of the Boss Hog of Liberty. Get all my GMC trucks from there. And Sports Corner and Varsity Outfitters. You guys check out the sweet PFG with the Boss Hog logo. Blake and the team down there do all of that. So if you need custom hats, shirts, you got logos you want printed out, do a really, really nice job, and they make sure that you're happy. They'll sell you a shirt. You can bring your own stuff in. You want a hat done, they do a great job. So with all of that said, let's get to know our guests. Gavin, you're back. This is your second appearance, first time this year.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You're now a Michigander.
I am. I'm a transplant.
Man, what's it like in the Great North? It smells skunky, I'd imagine.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. There's some nights when you walk into the apartment, you're like, neighbor's been having fun.
Of course, you're not allowed to do that in your line of work.
Right.
Too many responsibilities.
Right. It's not one of my extracurriculars.
So this is once again, I've immediately derailed the show. I require adult supervision, and I don't get it. I was struck by you last year, 2 years ago at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, trying to chat you up, say hey, meet you in person. We met through the Marshall Pruitt podcast and some stuff over there, and you were just talking to this lady, and I'm like, get out of my way, woman! I want to talk to Gavin. It was Tony Kanon's wife. You were talking to her, a couple of Wayne County folks.
Yep.
And I was getting in the way. So you've come a long way.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
That is certainly an understatement for sure.
Incredible stuff. Presley, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So this is exciting. ARCA driver in the house. You have you're in your rookie season, doing not just the local series, but this is the ARCA top level, like Frank Kimmel won 75 championships in this series.
Yeah, basically.
This is the big time. Tell us, how does this come to be? How do you go from, as I understand, you started in iRacing, I was, before iRacing existed, it was the old Sierra Papyrus, like IndyCar and NASCAR 1994 and NR 2003, that stuff. Those guys all went away. They built iRacing, and it created a platform for you guys to learn how to race and build a craft.
Yeah, so the first thing I ever raced was like soapbox derby cars and go-karts. But, after doing that for 3 or 4 years, and, I had success in it, but, there's not really a great jump up from it without spending tons of money. So we had to look for the next best avenue that wasn't going to cost us our entire house. So we found iRacing. I saw a post one day that NASCAR was going to be doing a series on iRacing in 2018 called the eNASCAR Ignite Series, and it was for 13 to 16-year-old up-and-coming race car drivers and iRacers, and they're putting them to the test to get $10,000 at the end of the season. And, when you have 13 to 16-year-olds, that doesn't usually go too well when they're fighting for 10 grand, and a late model test too. So I did that my first year. I didn't even have a simulator of my own. I ended up having to drive, or my parents drove me about an hour and a half out to Indianapolis every Wednesday night over the summer. That way I could use someone else's simulator. And I think we made my iRacing subscription about an hour and a half before the first race. And every time we go out there, I get, half hour of practice, and rock and roll. So that first season I finished, I think, either 62nd or 67th out of around 500 or so competitors, which the competitor in me, I was not happy with because I wanted to, go all the way and win the championship. But at the same time, looking back on it, something I've never done before at that point, sim racing, to finish that high up out of so many competitors, that was pretty good. And then the next season I came back and I made it all the way to the championship finale, finished, I think, 19th in it because it was a winner-take-all championship at Martinsville, of all places, again for 10 grand. And Martinsville, you see how it goes in real life when something big's on the line, like AKA the championship for NASCAR. So when you got all of us, I guess, like early high schoolers, I think even maybe high-end, well, I guess middle schoolers too, fighting for $10,000, that doesn't go very well. So,
and crash damage hurts in iRacing, but it's not, nobody's paying for a race car.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more risk taken.
Oh yeah. You can throw it all out on the line, and 9 times out of 10 it might not work, but at the end of the day you don't have to pay for it. So it's like, oh well.
So at what point do you go from doing the iRacing to I'm getting behind the wheel of an actual race car again?
Yeah. So I raced in a series called Monday Night Racing, and it was a series just for racing industry people. So they had a qualifying series in like the end of 2021 going into 2022, and they were taking, I think it was the top 3 drivers in the championship, and they're moving them on to their Monday Night Racing Pro Series the next season. So I ended up winning 5 races in that and winning the championship in the qualifying series, and that put me on in the Pro Series the next season. And at that point, I was racing SVG. He's obviously a big name in NASCAR right now, so he was racing in it. And Kyle Busch has raced in it. A bunch of the real-world drivers, Ryan Vargas, Anthony Alfredo, a bunch of those guys. So I raced with them, and that first season of that was my rookie season. It was their 5th season of the series, and nobody knew who I was because even the ones that qualified in, they had some role in real life. Most of them, I think 1 or 2 might have not had anything. They were just iRacers like me, but for the most part, we were the only ones that weren't known by anybody. So the races were broadcasted and everything, and there was a bunch on the line too. So it was funny, I showed up and I'm sure tons of people were like, who is this guy? Like, what even is this? And then they find out I'm 17 years old and they're like, what is this guy doing racing with us? So I ended up winning. It was either the 2nd or 3rd race of the season, maybe the 4th race, but it was pretty early on in the season. I won my first race, and I ended up dueling with SVG for a large portion of it for the lead and the win.
What track?
Martinsville,
okay,
with Mazda Miatas.
Okay.
So it was a heck of a combo. But yeah.
Against a world-class Australian supercars racer.
Yeah. Well, so
in a Mazda Miata in Virginia.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's the cool thing about Monday Night Racing is, and iRacing too, is they have so many cars and tracks on there that you can run like anything, anywhere. So most iRacing leagues, they just run like like Xfinity cars at NASCAR tracks or Cup cars at NASCAR tracks or whatever. But it's pretty stereotypical stuff. But Monday Night Racing, they run like the more like the wackier combinations. So they'll run like Mazda Miatas at Martinsville, or they ran like the Radical, like with
So
the
this is
big
like
wings
the
and
MX5
stuff.
Cup car is what y'all were running?
Yeah. Or
See, look at me knowing what I'm talking about, Gavin.
Or like they'll run like the Radical at Texas or IndyCar at Talladega, like crazy combinations like that. And then like they put like these real world drivers like Kyle Busch in there doing that. And so there's a pretty large audience for it. And then, that rookie season for me, I ended up winning another race after that and making the championship. And I led the points for quite a bit of the season. And even like going into the playoffs, at least what I felt is that they still didn't really know who I was. I'd won a couple races, but for the most part, that I wasn't on anybody's radar. I was still the underdog.
Are you wearing a fire suit when you're doing this?
No. I'm nerdy, but I'm not that nerdy. Not quite. But no. So I made the playoffs, and the playoffs went good. Made the championship 4, and the championship 4 was an in-person event in Charlotte, which as you know is like the hub for NASCAR. So there was NASCAR drivers in attendance down there. Obviously, drivers racing in it. Jerry Nadeau was racing in it. So, and Jeff Green too, which is pretty cool. So, championship 4 is down there. So we had.
He's my third favorite Green brother. Just so you know.
Yeah,
bigger fan of Mark and David.
Yeah. Well, so the championship 4 drivers were all up on the stage, and everyone else was racing down on the showroom floor. And then they had a live audience and crowd, and you could pay admission to go in and watch this, which is pretty unheard of for sim racing races, at least going into 2022. It's gotten a little bit more common now, but at that point, that was one of the first ones ever. So I ended up winning the championship in it in a crazy finish. It's on YouTube, so search Monday Night Racing, and you'll probably find it. It'll probably be the first thing that comes up, because me and one of the NASCAR Xfinity Series drivers, Anthony Alfredo, like literally flipped across the line for the championship, and it was wild. I hit the wall so hard that it killed my motor, and I flipped and rolled across the line backwards with no power, and my truck landed like the length of this table past the start finish line, and his truck stopped like upside down in pit road.
True Talladega Nights stuff.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like you couldn't ride it any better.
So this translates from the virtual world into real world opportunities.
Yes.
To get into a race car.
Yeah. So like I said, nobody knew who I was at that point. But then when I won this championship, it was like unreal publicity for weeks and even months. And especially they're close to the event. So all of a sudden, I would say that that's the most important thing I've ever done. It put me on the map. So, and it's not like a ton of people were watching this iRacing race, but at that time, that was far and away the biggest thing I'd ever done or won in my racing career.
And it created buzz.
Oh, tons, yeah. And especially down there in Charlotte,
you
competing
are the
with
Jeff Gordon of the digital world.
Yeah.
They've got to own you now.
Yeah. So like, especially down there in Charlotte, like racing with other drivers and in front of other drivers, I really got noticed. So I'd already had it planned, and it was a surprise at this point. So nobody knew about it at the time of the finale, but I had already planned a late model test down there at Hickory Speedway, or it was actually supposed to be at Caraway Speedway, but last minute it got switched to Hickory for 2 days after the championship race. So win or lose the championship, I was going down there to test a late model too. So I did that, and it went really well. That was like basically the first time I'd ever driven a race car ever. So aside from Rusty Wallace racing experience, like that was the first time I'd driven a legit race car. So it went well. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff that I had no clue what I was doing on, and it's just it's a learning curve. But that was really neat, and that created more publicity, and I was able to really ride the buzz off of the iRacing championship. And then it was like, oh my gosh, like sim to reality. The guy just won a big iRacing championship on Monday, and here he is 2 days later testing a late model at Hickory. And that's big, because at that point, we've had a few drivers.
You're still in high school at this point?
At this point, yeah. I was, or I guess I was just graduating. I had just graduated that year. So it was summer of 2022. So I just graduated that May. So fresh out of high school and 17 years old. So it was, I would say that's the most important thing I've ever done. But that coupled in with the late model test, that really got me noticed and got me opportunities to race IRL. And then we have a crazy domino effect. Like, I don't even know what we want to call it, of how we've met Brayton Laster and his family. But that's, I feel like Brayton kind of noticed me, or that was Brayton's first time ever really watching me race, because Brayton
Brayton was with us with Gavin back
Yeah.
in February of last year, January of last year.
Yeah. So Brayton and our group had gone karting, like 3 weeks before this championship, if even that.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been like June of 2022.
Yeah. So like within a month and a half or so of this championship event, and we hadn't really hung out since then, I don't think, or maybe
Yeah, I
once
mean,
or twice.
we might have gone for like pizza and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of doing whatever just in the weeks before that. But
Yeah, but we
Brayton get pizza.
I know, unheard of.
Yeah,
Unheard
it's
of.
crazy, right? But we didn't really know much about each other. So, Brayton was watching that race. There's a big group of them watching it in Discord, like doing a reaction to it. And I think he saw that, and he already knew that I wanted to race professionally as a career, but I think he saw that and was like, I want to put this to the test. So he let me race his late model last year here locally. And I ran like Anderson Speedway, Salem Speedway, ran the dirt late model, a bunch of different places, like Paragon, Clarksville, Circle City. I've run there a few times. So I did that last year and then moved into the ARCA stuff this year.
So at the same time he's growing up doing the iRacing side, you're attending the same elementary school and the same high school, Gavin, and also playing along sim racing as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why aren't you in a stock car? How'd he get the break?
Man, I don't want to be spending all that money. You crazy? I don't want to be spending all that money. But no. So Presley and I have been friends since I was in 4th grade. We met in elementary, and he was in the school pickup line. I think him or his brother had a die-cast car out of, I think it was probably a Jeff Gordon car, knowing them. And I saw it and started talking to him, and since then we've been friends. And like with my stuff that I'm doing on the graphic design side, I mean, I started out just doing some fun paint schemes for him, and I would do them in class when I would get my stuff done, or just work on them.
So you got to do one of the first well-known things that you got to do is you won a contest to do a paint scheme for an ARCA car that ran Talladega.
Yes.
And magically it crashed with Brayton's car.
It flew over Brayton's car. Yeah.
And you had been a guest of the race team. You got to go down there and you did incredible networking, and that created the opportunity for you to now you've had paint schemes in almost all of these series.
So yeah, I mean, I had a truck earlier this year. I've had a bunch of cars within the ARCA series. It really sprouted from that Talladega thing. Like right when it happened, it was kind of one of those things where you don't see the immediate effect of it. Like there isn't really one. And then you start meeting more people and you start putting these chains together basically. And so it started off from me going down there and seeing the car, and it was fast track with Andy Hillenberg. You know, I knew of the team, I knew of the car, whatever. But from that, like meeting Brayton, and then through Brayton, I met Zachary Tinkle, who then brought me back into the fast track circle, and I met John Shulcheski, who was basically the team manager over there. And from there, that just kind of sprouted out into doing a bunch of more work with them, and then meeting new people that way. So
on top of the racing, I'm going to go blow by blow with you on some of the events you've gotten to do and how the ARCA East and the ARCA series has gone. But you've both also been, I've been amazed and I really impressed that you're at the age where you can just drop what you're doing and you'll go to Kansas. You'll go to a racetrack for the weekend, and that you think you're going just to go see the event. And the next thing I know, either one of you's got a headset on and you're spotting for somebody. How does that happen?
Well, so
because you're a high school kid, and the next thing you know, you're up there standing in turn 2, responsible for clearing another high school kid.
You're not legally responsible for like yourself, barely, and now you're responsible for some other guy's livelihood while driving.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll back that up to when I was in high school last year. I mean, I think we had probably talked about it a little bit, but when I went to Daytona last year, I actually, the school told me that I had to have somebody sign off on the paperwork to go down on this business trip, because a couple months before that I had signed off on my own because I have my own business, and they're like, hey man, like you can't be doing that. And I'm like, I mean, it's a
You don't have autonomy
it's a
over
business
yourself.
trip. Yeah, I mean, it's a business trip. I'm a senior in high school. You know, I'm ready to get out at this point. Like I'm working on my career. So, I mean, I would literally leave in the middle of the week after a track meet. There was a track meet last year on a Thursday. I'd get done, do my run, everything else, blah blah blah, drive straight through the night to Kansas. And I mean, that was just how I was living my life last year.
He loved
And-
that Kansas trip, by the way. That was one of his favorites that he's ever been on.
Oh,
I
man.
promise you.
It was brutal. It was brutal. No sleep, just driving through the night. But
Those are core memories.
how I ended up with a headset is I was at Iowa last year. I had just grabbed my my media vest out of the ARCA hauler, and I walked in for the driver's meeting. I always would listen to him just because I was curious. And
They don't just let you walk into a driver's meeting, though.
Yeah.
Is it because you're media?
I
Or
mean, they
random-
don't really care.
This is ARCA.
Half
so
the
it's the
half
Wild
the
West.
time, they'll do it at the back of the hall or whatever.
All right.
And so I'm about to walk out of the room, and Andy Hillenberg walks up to me and he's like, "Hey, come here real quick." I'm like, "Okay, what does Andy want?" And he's like, "So this is AJ Moyer. He doesn't have a spotter. Would you do me a solid and go up there and spot him?"
Would you do me a favor?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we spotted for Zachary the week before, though. in
Yeah.
Ohio.
Yeah, we had spotted at Mid Ohio. It was a couple laps that we had spotted, and
Wait,
that's
time out.
way
Where do you
different.
spot at Mid Ohio?
I'm guessing the keyhole.
You at the keyhole. You're down the
So,
just before the big braking zone.
I
watch
was-
them come out of the kink.
I was down in the keyhole, I believe.
I was like turn 9, 10, 11. through
Thunder
there.
Valley area.
Yeah. So I was down in the keyhole. Brayton was in the kink. He was actually the primary spotter, and then there was somebody on the back end of the track, and then he was
Ron.
at the end of it.
And
Yeah.
we couldn't hear him.
Yeah. So ARCA things.
Yeah.
But I mean, we had done that the week before. Just easy, whatever. Just get the job done. And then Iowa comes around, 7/8 of a mile oval, and Andy's like, Can you just do me a favor? He'll pay gas money, whatever. I'm like, I haven't been making anything when I'm going to these races. Like that wasn't what I was there for. And so I'm like, gas money, perfect. So get up there, do the practice. First time doing this really when it comes to an oval. It's a whole different game. And so I'm trying to get to know the driver and stuff and try to figure out what I'm doing. So Andy's kind of coaching me. John's kind of coaching me a little bit. And we end up finishing, I think, 16. And that was one of his better finishes all year. And so I ended up, he was like,
Now they love you.
I mean, AJ was happy with what I had done. And he's like, yeah, I want you back, until I say not to. So I ended up the next week at Michigan. I think it was Michigan the next week. Ended up spotting him there. And I talked to Earl Barbin a little bit through the week. I had texted him. I'm like, hey, like, what do I need to know about this place? And then I saw him that Friday and talked to him a little bit too, just on what to do for these bigger tracks, because
Michigan's 2 miles. It's a massive racetrack.
Yeah. You'd
It's
be
probably
surprised.
about as big of a track as you're going to do solo as a spotter and not have two.
Well, the week after that was Pocono. And if you want to talk about a track where you cannot see anything, Pocono is that track, because you're up on the spotter stand. And I mean, you got to think about the perception of what you're able to see. You're going down this mile-long straightaway. By the time you're getting down into turn 1, you can't see if you can clear them. So, I mean, when you were
I'd be too much of a smart ass, Zach. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably okay.
Like I just
we were
Clear enough.
We were
Clearish. We had
keep-
Chris Wheeler was on.
just
He was
keep saying,
Pato spotter.
just keep saying like clear into turn 4. Just see if they just a what?
Yeah.
Just,
We were just, I mean, I'll be honest, we were just so slow. I mean, we were in a slower car.
Car's
And-
coming up on you. Car's
Oh,
coming up
that-
on you.
Every week. Every week, my favorite word was hold it down low, outside, like the sentence, I guess.
Yeah.
But my favorite word was outside. I said that quite a bit. And, it's just trying to keep him out of trouble, really, and make us finish as many laps as we can with keeping him safe and keeping the car safe.
I'm watching the chat, and Bobby is asking Mr. Gavin if he's ever had a car black flag while spotting.
Okay, so that brings up another great story. Bristol.
Okay.
Bristol, I mean, you know how fast Bristol is. Big,
Half mile track, 17 seconds, 16 seconds.
Oh my God, they are so fast. Then you put 32
children,
half experienced drivers out there, and
for the podcast audience, he made a quote mark drivers.
And this car was maybe the slowest car I have ever seen in my life. We were, I want to say at Bristol, we were about a second and a half off the pace, maybe 2, maybe even 3. I have pictures somewhere. I could find it. Anyway, 32 cars at Bristol is a lot of cars, especially when they're going really fast around you. So everything's happening split second. So you gotta be ahead on everything.
Where are you standing to spot this race?
So it's really interesting. The spotter stand at Bristol is turn 1, really high up on top of the suites in turn 1. So we are, I want to say we're 25 laps into this race, and
7 laps down already.
I honestly,
I mean, a second and a half off. You're like, that's like a turn a lap.
We got lapped lap 3. So there's your answer.
Yeah.
So we
I'd be pissing myself.
Stuart, the official up there, I can hear race control in my left ear, and I can hear the driver in my right ear. So I'm keyed up the whole time. Outside, more coming. Hold it low here. Outside. I do not get off of the radio this entire time, and I can hear race control in my left ear being like, 06 car, too slow. You got one chance to come in and fix the issue. So I'm like, okay, we need to bring it down here. Luckily, we get a yellow this time. Right as we're about to come in, we get a yellow. So he almost goes down the wrong pit lane. But, that's besides the point. So he gets back out on track. We run the pace laps. He comes down.
Because there's a front stretch and a back stretch pit lane at Bristol.
He can finally keep up, though, during the caution laps. He's
we
good
were.
there.
We were fine on
pit road speed.
We were great on pace. So then we go back out there. This is 25 laps into the race. Again, we get lapped on lap 27 of the race again. And so, at some point, ARCA, I hear him say, 06 car, too slow, bring it back down, because we had already came in, fixed the issue, whatever. There was no issue, but we fixed it.
You played along.
Brought it back out there, and then they're finally like, okay, you're going to have to bring it back down again, try to fix the issue. And I'm like, okay, we need to come down here. We need to bring it down pit road.
So they are not telling the crew chief; they're telling you. It is your job, or you're the one passing the message.
Well, the problem was the crew chief didn't have a headset that connected to ARCA. He had the car. He did not have ARCA. He also did not look at the flag stand.
They gave you the good radio. All right.
So I'm telling him, I'm like, all right, we need to work our way down. Like, we're on the bottom already. I'm like, okay, down the back stretch, pull off, whatever. 1 lap goes by.
Disregard.
2 laps goes by. I think it was like 15 laps or something. It was ridiculous. And at some point, he finally comes down pit road. And by that point, Stuart is behind me, and he's like, you got to park the damn car. Like, you guys are done. I'm like, I know. I've been telling him. I'm like, we are done. And then he pulls it down pit road, stops in the box. And I'm like, we're done. Like, take it to the garage. We are done. He's like, let's just put some tires on it. I'm like, we are done. They are saying, do not come back out. Like, we are done in this race.
They're taking the keys away.
Finally, he pulls it in, and Stuart's like, ARCA wants to see you, the crew chief, and the driver in the hauler after the race. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
Called to the hauler.
I'm like, I have just been called to the hauler. Like, what am I going to do?
You've earned your NASCAR ARCA merit badge.
Oh my God. It was
So how much
worst.
did they fine you? And did you say I'm a minor?
So
My mom and dad's
$10,000 fine, and you're,
Here's my parents' credit card.
you signed out for the weekend from school.
Yeah. Yeah. So I go into the hauler, I sit in on the meeting and everything. The driver's telling him he couldn't hear me. Shocker. And at some point he starts rambling on about this, whatever. And he brought a sponsor into this meeting. He brought his sponsor
I didn't know
in on this meeting. So him, Ron,
it's a full experience. You paid for the weekend. You get to enjoy it all.
Him, the sponsor, and Ron Drager are all talking, and they're talking about the Ilmores and everything else. And finally, the other race control guy kind of tapped me on the shoulder and pointed me out. He's like, and shut the door. He's like, you're only in there for formality. Like, we were listening to the radio, and you were telling him for 15 laps straight to come down. Like, we're about to pull his license.
You're gonna have to find somebody else to spot for. Hey, here's Presley.
Like, and after that, I'm like, I'm not doing it for him anymore. So then the next week we're at Salem, and I get to spot John Garrett, and we finished 6th.
So is anybody paying for your travel and all this? Because you're bouncing from you're going 800 miles at a time here every weekend. How are the teams helping you out at this point, or are you just showing up because you're addicted to it?
Well, I mean, when I was spotting, I'd be getting paid. Right. So I was like, I'm happy. I get to break even on the weekend, and then when I'm doing my work through the week, I get to make money there. So
there you go.
It worked out.
You figure, as we said before we got on the air, you figured out how to actually make a little bit of money in this sport.
I did.
Yeah. All right.
That Bristol story is somewhere between like Talladega Nights and Days of Thunder. That's a movie scene. Of just like at some point you need to have a meltdown, just throw your headset down and just like storm off or something.
Well, I had to run back before the race and go grab my headset because I had left it down there.
I think it's where they put Ricky Bobby in the car. Right? That's about where it's.
I would be such a smart ass to the official. Like, he's going to run out of fuel eventually, and we won't put him in. We're not servicing the car again. You go get him. Throw a yellow and drag his ass out of there. I don't care.
And these guys are too young to even know the scene. I'm just picturing the scene in Top Gun after Cougar tunes in his wings when the guy's just chewing him out, talking about cargo planes out of Hong Kong. I'm like, just picturing the officials had to be livid because it sounds like I can picture these cars all going real fast, and this one car is and you're saying outside, which means he's on the inside line. So he's on the good line, and he's just puttering around in the middle, just letting everybody pass him on the outside. I bet they were like so upset.
Zach, when I tell you that I have never seen a car so ill handling and slow in my life, that car pushed up off of turn 4 and damn near wrecked somebody coming by to lap us. And I start yelling on the radio. I'm like, low, hold it low, hold it low. And right as this happens, so he pushes up out of the corner. There's a car coming to the outside, and there's a car close to us. So I know that this car behind us is going to either go to our outside or he's going to send it to the inside. So you want to know what happens here? Car behind us sees us wash up, and he's like, bottom line's open. Drives it down to the bottom. So at this point, I'm still calling hold it low because that car's flying around us. I think it was the leader.
Middle.
And so I'm like, hold it low, middle, hold your line. And literally we were inches from being wrecked. Like, I think there was contact and he did a hell of a job holding on to it, which was the best thing he did all race. But man, I have never in my life had such a poor experience.
Are they still driving?
Or can you watch some race this weekend in the
Are they an
City
active
200?
are they an active driver in a series?
That moment of silence might have been one of the best things ever.
I plead the fifth. He actually, you know what? If you want to do some research, go back to Charlotte and look for the Reese's Sweet Move of the race. You'll find him. And then tell me what you think.
Is he getting posterized though? The good or the bad? We'll find out.
So this weekend, you guys are paired up together.
We are.
Gavin, you will be spotting in the Circle City 200,000. $1 million to win is what I heard. You got to show some hunger, Presley. You had a chance to work through a handful of ARCA East, which is like I used to be kind of like the Busch North series, I guess, back in the day, and now it's been relabeled since ARCA came in. So you have run at Five Flags in Pensacola. You ran the legendary Nashville Fairgrounds this year, and you just ran Iowa Speedway.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. They're the same cars, I assume. The same ARCA car, or essentially the same as what the National Touring ARCA car is.
Oh, they're the exact same.
So it's just a matter of what column or what.
Yeah, just which series you're in. Yeah.
All right. So how have those races gone?
So I mean, we've done what we needed to do there. So I think the ability to get up to speed for me this year, I think it surprised a lot of people, because I mean, I still don't have nearly I probably have a quarter the experience of most of the other guys, if even that. So I think that surprised a lot of people, because I rolled off at Pensacola and I was fairly up to speed and like comparable with my teammates. So really, like, that's what I've been looking for with the first few starts, because I'm learning. It's not something I can just dive into and immediately go out there and expect to set the pole and win the race after leading every lap. So you gotta tread slowly. So I look at the small things, just making sure I'm getting better each event, and I feel like I have, especially like Pensacola to Nashville. Pensacola's the first race, Nashville is the second one I did, and I feel like between those two races, I got so much better. It's not even funny. Even at like the small things, just qualifying. Like I was so much better in qualifying at Nashville, and like just getting up to speed. And I feel like every time I get in a car, it's less of that like, ooh, this is unnatural feeling. So for the longest time in everything I did, like in the car, it just didn't feel right. Like I was doing it, and like some of the characteristics are similar to the sim racing, but it doesn't feel like normal to me. But
are you looking for a real neutral car? Like, obviously they've kept you on like mile or less tracks.
Yeah.
Are you trying to find just a neutral balance? Are you trying to set up a car so that you're loose and fast, or what are you looking for?
No, we're just looking for something neutral. Yeah. The first three races, we're just looking for something that I can drive and drive well, and I'm not going to be like the razor edge of crashing the thing every corner. So it's pretty basic deal. I mean, we're not throwing the kitchen sink at it by any means, and speed's not even really. It wasn't that much of a concern the first few races, because it's not, we're not out there to win the thing or finish top 5 or 10 or whatever.
Gaining
because
experience, keeping the corners on it, turning laps.
Exactly. And I haven't had a single scratch on any car this season. Pensacola's a little close. Yeah. Knock on wood.
If it goes wrong this weekend,
we're gonna have a heck of a TikTok clip.
You got a guy to blame.
Yeah, exactly.
Spotter's fault.
I don't know about that.
And I will not be pulling in either if we get black flag. So I actually will be. Anybody listening, I promise I will. But nah. So I think Indy's going to go really well, because we're going to transition that from where the first 3 races it's been get comfortable with the car, log laps, don't get it damaged, bring it home. And now we're going for a result.
I don't want the competitor to have to explain the series as much as I'm going to lean on Gavin for this, but it feels like you have, in ARCA, you have the veterans that have been around for a very long time, and then you have some really heavily funded teams.
Right.
And then you've got this middle bucket of people that are like Presley, that somehow have figured out how to piece together a deal to get in the series and get experience and get out there.
Yeah. This weekend, they just released the entry list, 31 cars, which is a lot for, I mean, what ARCA's been really. Everything's been up this year, which is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, really what you have right now is there's a Chevrolet factory team in Pinnacle. There's Venturini. That's really your 2 groups. And really Venturini is driver dependent. So really you have about 3 drivers setting the world on fire.
And Gibbs too.
Yep, and Sawalich with Gibbs. You have 3 drivers setting the world on fire, top 5 maybe, and then
everybody
about
else.
seventh, and then like this week 7th on back to like 25th. That is just going to be a crapshoot, to be honest. Like everybody's going to be on top of each other, just going for it.
So reasonable expectation, lead lap, top 20 to top 10 is kind of the stretch goal.
So the way I look at it is we should absolutely finish top 20. If we finish below 20th, I'm going to be so disappointed. Whatever the circumstance is, I'm not going to be happy with 20th, whether it's my fault, whether we get wrecked, whatever. I'm not going to be happy if we finish below 20th. I would say top 15 is a good day for us. That's top half of the field, and that would be a good result for what we're doing. And then I want to finish top 10. Top 10's possible. It's going to be tough. I mean, top 10 is like, we put on a show.
It's a hell of a day.
If we finish so a top 10 for us on
Joe
Friday
Gibbs is
night,
signing you to a contract by the end of the weekend.
Yeah, right. No, so top 10 for us Friday night would be the equivalent of winning the race, like for other people. Like that would be fantastic. I don't know that we're going to be popping champagne and pit road for finishing P10.
Popping hot sauce.
Yeah, popping hot sauce. But we would be very, very stoked for the top 10. And that's where I'm shooting for. But top 15 would be a good day too.
Zach Burcham, we had some questions sent in from some patrons in advance in excitement of Presley appearing.
Yeah. First one is, have either of you watched Malcolm in the Middle?
I know where this is going.
Yeah.
Couple episodes. Frankie's a super nice guy.
He is.
Super genuine.
Yeah. I was like, these are all Andrew Bowman's questions. I was like, I hadn't even thought about it. I forgot he's been doing that.
Frankie is extremely nice, and he's very, very passionate about it too. Like, you can tell when he's at the track, he wants nothing more than to learn and get better. I think a lot of people at first, like when he first came into it, like nobody in the racing world there really knew what he was out there to do. And
when he was doing Malcolm, he did, I think, the Toyota All-Star race at Long Beach and got hooked in racing, and then found himself in the road to Indy back in the kart days.
He was
15, 20 years
he was
ago.
one injury away from IndyCar.
Yeah, he was right there. And then he had a family, whatever. And then in the last few years, he's come back and he's been in the stock car world now with you guys.
Yeah, and it's been great because, like I said, I think a lot of people thought it was almost like a publicity thing or that he was just out there joyriding. But like since he's come in, he's been so passionate about it, and you can tell like he wants to do good, and he's just as disappointed as everybody else when he doesn't do well. And I mean, he's just like us, which is crazy to say because I mean he is a famous actor and he's had like this entire other life, but once he's at the racetrack, he's just like any of us.
His father was Heisenberg.
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah. No, he's been like, it's been cool to watch him. Like last year, with Gavin and I going to all the races, we saw him progress through the year. And then I know he's doing truck races in Xfinity this year. And I think he did an ARCA race or two, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's getting behind the wheel of everything. He legitimately wants to make a little career out of it, which is pretty cool.
Any other questions that are worth reading? Or
Yeah. Well, you guys you've been to Pocono. How many turns does Pocono have? Bowman assumes you guys know nothing. Apparently.
It's definitely three. But
yeah.
What turn for? Yeah.
Yeah. And then any insider information on Ryan Preece? I don't know where Bowman comes up with these questions.
I saw a speculation the other day, but I can't remember what it was.
I think he's the fourth SHR guy looking for a ride. Is that right?
I don't follow. I haven't been able to keep up with NASCAR that much.
I heard.
Gene's gonna keep one Cup car, and I kind of just assumed that
Cole Custer.
Cole Custer. I heard McDonald's was hiring.
I wonder who wants to drive for Gene.
Gavin is not going to have any opportunities working for Ryan Preece next year. I'm just going to guess. Limited opportunities.
I think getting away from Gene Haas would be a pretty good deal because I'm just like, I think I saw a thing where on another racing world, I think that Toyota is supposed to come into Formula One and they're coming in with Haas as their factory team. I'm like, so you're telling me they want to dip their toe into Formula One, because if they actually want to run Formula One, they would not go with Gene Haas's team, because the most famous person on Gene Haas's team is Gunther Steiner, and they fired him.
Yeah, that is true. They're finished sixth back-to-back weeks though.
Yeah,
they've done a little better.
They've finally gotten some like decent drivers that kind of and they aren't just burning through them.
They've been doing better than the Ferrari factory team here in the last few weeks.
They're no longer a Russian oligarchy extensions. That's better. All right, so tell me about Andy Hillenberg. I'm an IndyCar guy.
Mm-hmm.
Andy was, I remember him. He owned Rockingham Speedway. He's from Indiana. In 2000, he had a start in the Indy 500 with his own team. How do you get connected with Andy Hillenberg? He was a through my childhood in the 90s and 2000s, he's running everything under the sun. How does Presley Sorah get connected with the Indiana legend Andy Hillenberg?
So it kind of goes back to Gavin, like with the way that he met all the people at Fast Track through Zachary, Braden, everyone else. Gavin introduced me to them. So what was our first race with Fast Track was Pensacola last year, maybe?
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So Pensacola last year, and which Zachary got his, at that point, career best finish. I think he was 7th, Pensacola. But pretty much last year, same deal with Gavin. Like we even rode to most of the races together. Just showed up every week, and we were with Andy's team, Fast Track, and I mean, we were doing anything we could. You know,
is he shaking you down, trying to figure out? Okay, does he have this hot sauce money or what? Like, is he always looking to see who he can create opportunities for in the cars?
Well,
and how these things come to be.
Andy, you're being put through tests without even knowing you're being put through tests, and Andy's driven everything, and he knows a race car driver when he sees one, or he just knows a racer. And I mean, you can tell that, you know, he's trying to size you up and figure out if you're really there to be serious or not. And, you know, Gavin and I showed up to almost all the races last year, and we worked as hard as we could. I mean, even like the little jobs, just pushing the cars to tech or pushing the cars out to the racetrack for the grid. Like, I think, I mean, Andy and John have told both of us this, that just showing up so much last year is why we're in the position we're in now, because it shows that we're actually.
Do we hear shots fired behind us in the studio?
I don't know.
The
It's
mean
also
streets of Newcastle
It's also
tonight.
the Midwest, and the 4th of July. Was
there's
a couple
leftover
weeks ago,
fireworks.
so it's either
We're going to assume there wasn't a shooting.
we're going to wait to see how many and what the pitch of the sirens are in a few minutes.
Yeah,
to know
but
whether or not we should take.
Nobody got winged, right? It's
Nah.
All right. We're not in Pennsylvania. All right,
Yours are
continue
good.
with your story.
But no, so just showing up every week, and I mean, doing the little jobs, because somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to push the car to the grid. So, I mean, we were willing to do that stuff, and even just like volunteering. I mean, most of the season last year, I mean, aside from when like Gavin spotted, we're just there volunteering. We're not doing it for money. And I think that plays a big role too, because, you know, it would be easy for us to go in there and, you know, we want this amount of money and to do this job. No, we were just there to help and be there every week. And, you know, some people aren't willing to do that, and we were. So I think that, and the other thing is, like, Gavin works. He does his design stuff, and, you know, he has his job now, and I have a job. I work at an elementary school. I worked at a community center last year, and like it's not like we have no lives and we can just go to the racetrack whenever we want. Like, we have to make some sacrifices here and there, whether it be work or just personal stuff. And we found a way. You know, we weren't at every race, but we were at a lot of them. I think Gavin made it out to a few more than I did, but we made it to a ton. I think way more than we thought we were going to at the beginning of the year. But yeah, it was cool. So Andy, you know, the longer we were around, he started giving more opportunities. So like I spotted for Zachary at Mid-Ohio, and then the next week I spotted for Brayton at Iowa. And then really cool, I got to spot for Stanton Barrett at Watkins Glen in the fall, and unbelievable.
Stuntman Stanton Barrett.
Yeah, and in an unbelievable turn of events, Presley Sorah almost got his first ever ARCA win as a spotter, because we lined up P2 on the outside lane on the final restart, because we took a massive strategy call because it started pouring down rain, and we stayed out on slicks, and we were going to gamble and see if Stanton could hold on. And it was like that awkward middle ground where it was like too wet for slicks, but kind of too dry for rain tires. So rain tires ended up being the call, and we finished like 8th or 9th, which was about where we ran the whole day, but that was pretty cool. But just getting those opportunities from being around there the whole year. And then, you know, I made it clear with Andy and the Fast Track team that I want to drive. That is my goal. And I hope I get to this weekend if the mic's picking
as long as we
up.
don't get shot.
Yeah. But
the noises continue. They're brick walls. I think we're mostly safe.
I hold up. Yeah.
Mostly safe.
Good enough. But yeah, no. So
be a damn shame to come this far and get, you know,
right.
Find yourself bleeding out before the race weekend.
That'd be good.
Because you did a local podcast.
Yeah.
All right. So plug the sponsor. Who is on the race car this week?
HD5.
What in the world is HD5?
So based up in Michigan, Gavin can probably explain better because he works there. Gavin is one of the people behind what they're putting out every week. But
it's the hat he's wearing.
Yeah, it is. And the hat I'll be wearing on Friday. But yeah, they do anything from printing wraps, wrapping, making trophies. And here's the deal. HD5, so before the sponsorship even came about, Tim showed me around the place, and they legitimately they do things better than anyone I've ever seen in any capacity. So everything that they do is so well thought out. And the thing I love about Tim is you can tell with him, and Tim's the owner. So you can tell that Tim, every single second of the day, when he's making decisions and thinking about what he's doing next, it's with 10 or 15 years ahead in the future in mind. So it's really easy to think about like right now, or like for me to think about Friday, or another race coming up in the future, or whatever. But Tim thinks every decision that he makes is for the future and to make his business better and to better himself. And I think that's the people you need in your career and just in life in general, because he's such a smart guy, and that business is only going to elevate more and more. And I mean, like he told us a story of him sitting in the corner in his little cubicle, and that was how he started. And now he's running everything, and he's built it up from such a small spot to, I mean, God, so many late models are wrapped by HD5 or have an HD5 design on them. And like the Snowball Derby, they make the trophies for it. So it's like everything that they do is just so, it's such high quality, and it's the exact people that I would want on my race car.
Do you realize the lottery you won going to elementary school with this guy?
Right.
The networking that he has put together.
Yeah.
It blows my mind every time to see how connected that Gavin has been over in just 2 or 3 years. All right. So with that said, you have a public appearance coming up.
Mm-hmm. I do.
How do people get to meet Presley Sorah and maybe see the race car?
Yeah. So if you are local, 11 to 2 on Thursday at the Golay Community Center in Cambridge, I'll actually be there. I'll be signing autographs at a table. I'll have my race car there that I'll be driving on Friday. So literally 24 hours before I hit the track for practice, because I think we practice at 1 on Friday. 24 hours before we hit the track for practice, that exact car will be in Cambridge City, and you can go up to it, take pictures with it, look in it. Kiddos can sit in it. So, I mean, it should be a really cool opportunity. And it's neat because it's my hometown, and the Golay Community Center is actually where I work part-time. So, like right now, I work their summer like childcare program, Super Summer Fun. And then I also work at the desk as well, and I have for a few years. So it's neat to be able to have like my race car
for
there.
them to get to see what you go and do.
Yeah, because I can talk about it, I can show pictures and everything, but it'll be different once I actually have it there sitting. And I mean, Gavin will agree with this. The fact that a NASCAR ARCA car is going to be in Cambridge City is unbelievable. If we were 5, 6, 7 years old and a NASCAR car was in our town, we would be freaking out. We wouldn't sleep all week this week. And I think that'll be really cool because it'll be the same way for some of those kids. And
it's a driver, a local driver.
Yeah.
The inspiration or the breadcrumbs that leads to those that are coming behind you is mind-boggling.
Yeah, and I mean, it shows that like it's possible. I mean, I have been told, and Gavin's been told the same, that what we want to do is not going to happen. And and it's not even people like hating on what you're trying to do. It's just them being realistic. Because if you look at the odds,
what you've already achieved is impossible.
Yeah, the stuff that we've already done, nobody else is doing, and it's kind of unheard of from somewhere like Cambridge City, because it's such a small town and so little people know of it. And you might pass through it, but there's just not much networking and connections that you can make there. So the fact that we've been able to do it, we
feel like
have.
Poor Jack's Amusements needs to be on the side of that race car. I
agree.
All right, so big Cambridge City business there. They're more of an IndyCar organization now. So I'm gonna say that if people want to go to raceirp.com, they can buy themselves some tickets. Get a reserve seat for $45. I think the GA is $35, but if you do that and you accidentally run into Presley, you may end up on the crew. 12 and under are free. So on Friday, your race is at 5:30. I assume practice is a little earlier. It's a one-day show.
Yeah, one-day show. I think practice is at 1:30, qualifying is at 2:30, I want to say.
And then finish up after you've drank your hot sauce in Victory Lane. They're going to have the NASCAR Truck Series race as well.
Yep. And another thing, the tickets, I don't know if it's all Menards locations in Indiana, but I know select Menards at least have discounted tickets. So it's either, what is it, $20, $25?
Yeah, it's $25.
$25. So you can get them even cheaper. So if you go to Menards, because Menards is the series sponsor, then you can get cheaper tickets there.
kind of physical fitness do you need for 200? Is it 200 laps?
200 laps.
Are you ready for this?
We'll see.
On a July night in Indiana?
So that'll be the longest like IRL race I've done. So
IRL in real life.
Yeah, in real life.
Not Indy Racing.
Yeah, not Indy Racing League, no. But that'll be the longest one that I've done. So we'll see. I'm trying to hydrate the best I can, and yeah, I'm trying to hydrate the best I can, and be prepared for that because
your fan club is trying to hydrate you in other ways. I can tell.
Yeah, look,
they're in trouble.
Bobby's over there laughing, but no, I'm trying to stay hydrated, and I don't really know. I guess you don't know. Well, you don't know here, so I don't really know what to expect. So I might get out of the car after the race, after 200 laps, and collapse on the floor, or I might be feeling all right.
Be ready to go run a mini marathon.
Yeah, you never know. I might be ready to hop in the truck race or something.
Yeah, hey, you impress them. You never know.
Yeah.
So do you have your own seat? Do you have a seat that goes from place to place now?
I don't have my own seat yet. That's probably my next big purchase I need to make, but it's a big purchase. So those things are not cheap.
Race car seats, Hans device, all of that stuff you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
Custom driver uniform.
Yep, got my custom driver uniform. I've got Landcoin podcast on there, so and some local sponsors as well. Scotty Unplugged, Steve-O's Music Madness. So yeah, fire suit looks awesome. Gavin designed it, so that's another deal there. Gavin designed the race car. Gavin designed the fire suit. So pretty cool there. But yeah, that stuff's mandatory, and that's another big thing about getting into this sort of profession is it's not as easy as just hopping in the race car. Even if you have the connections to do it, my gosh, there's so many other, you got to buy fire suits, buy helmets. And that stuff's not cheap.
Your helmet doesn't have a theme like Brady's.
No, mine's just all black. It's got my sponsors and stuff on it, but it's nothing, no pepperoni.
There's no pepperonis
on
it. All right. Have you nicknamed yourself yet?
I haven't.
Are you going to find him a nickname? You're the marketing guy, Gavin.
I've been called P Money, but I don't know where the money part comes from. So
we're still trying to find one.
All right,
we're still trying to find one.
I think you got to work on it. You got to find that.
But
it needs to be a good one, though.
I don't know if he needs a nickname with how good he is with plugging his sponsors.
That's so far so good. All right, so FS1, big national TV race too.
Yeah, I know that's a big one. I think that contributed a little bit to the entry list being so big. Like a lot of the East standalone races, they're not on Fox Sports 1, so there's not as much draw for the teams or for fans or anything to go out to the race. But the Fox Sports 1 races are big because we get the most viewership out of that. And then like Indy itself, I mean, Indy's already a big race just for us because it's local and it's our home race. But Indy's like one of our biggest races of the season. Like we've got Daytona, Talladega, Bristol, Indy. Yeah. And everything else falls below those four.
And there's so much more buzz this weekend for Indianapolis in the stock car world.
Oh, yeah.
This is the 30th anniversary of the inaugural Brickyard 400. I sat and turned 4 with my father for that race. That's how old I am. I was at the very first one. You guys didn't exist yet, but I was there. I watched Ernie Irvan cut a tire with 2 laps to go and lose. I was a big Ernie Irvan fan back in the day, and that no talent hack Jeff Gordon won instead for his second Cup win. Yeah. Sad day for the Morrell clan. That said, so it's all 4 series, national touring series, are going to be in Indianapolis this weekend, and you're one of them, man.
I know, and that was
amazing.
Well, so that was one of the craziest things about Iowa, and it's weird. Like it sounds stupid, but at no point in this season has this really felt like completely surreal. Like I'm just kind of taking it as it comes, and I'm working hard at moving on up. So, and I'm always so busy that I don't really think about like, wow, I'm running ARCA and this is, what I've always wanted to do. I mean, I think about it from time to time, but that's not always going to cross my mind. But at Iowa, I was walking down pit road and, like right behind the pit stalls, and the Cup cars are heading out on track. And I'm like, this is insane. I'm running the same track, the same time that, like, we had just gotten out of the car after practice, and the Xfinity cars go out there, and then the Cup cars, and it's like, whoa, this is insane. Yeah, I mean, especially and then like especially coming from just like sim racing 2 years ago. I mean, 2022, I was a sim racer, nothing else, sim racing driver, and 2 years later to be running with Cup drivers, same weekend, that's pretty insane.
You been called the hauler yet?
I've not been called a hauler, and I don't plan on anytime soon. I did the only, well,
Makes one of us.
I haven't officially been called to it, but I did do a stupid at Iowa. I managed to get so busy that I just forgot about the driver's meeting. So I just didn't go because I didn't
start last.
I did. So, and I went to the backup drivers meeting for the ones that were dumb enough to miss the drivers meeting. So, got that figured out. But yeah, that was my first. I think I don't know if it was logged, but first official ARCA penalty is starting last at Iowa.
Your personal assistant over here needs to keep you straight.
I know.
Keep you in line.
I know. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, honestly.
I wasn't there that weekend.
That is true.
Well, that's your first mistake. All right. So you was off in college. Gavin, tell me. This is the final thoughts segment of the show. So things we forgot, stuff you're supposed to pitch. If people need a livery, a little graphic design work, how do they find that? It's a paint scheme. I'm sorry. We're talking stock cars. You need a paint scheme. How do I find you?
Yeah, so I got a website, runningsracingdesigns.com. You can contact me through there. I have my portfolio and everything pulled up there. I have any of my social medias at runnings_racing. I just, I do a little bit of freelance stuff on the side now, being, moved. I work up, like he alluded to earlier, I work up at HD5. We make a lot of badass things up there. Redbud's running this weekend up at Anderson, and I was looking at the entry list and I'm like, that was one of the cars we did stuff for. That was one of the cars that we did stuff for. That was one of the, we have our drivers and everything up there that we do a lot of work for. So we do a lot on the racing side. ASA Stars Tour, a lot of the trophies for them. And I mean, he was talking about Tim, and Tim's a fantastic guy. One of my mentors right now, just being up there and I've learned so much from him, and I'm really excited with my job up there, working for the company and getting to do some really cool things. So yeah.
I'm afraid he's going to be so damn successful. We're not going to be able to reach him before too long.
I know.
He's going to be managing Hendrick Motorsports in 5 years.
Yeah.
This is what's coming. He's going to be Mr. Charlotte in no time. Zach Burcham.
Okay, we had a question in the chat about you getting the shirt that you're wearing. Is there a story to this shirt?
So, a funny story about this one. So, this is actually not my shirt. My Fast Track Racing shirt is at home. So, after our fun day in Indianapolis today, picking up our good friend Isaac Johnson over here, not the Isaac Johnson that will be racing this weekend, so don't get it confused. He will be helping out, though, I promise. But no, so after we were out in Indianapolis all day and realized, oh my God, we are not going to make it back to Cambridge City in time, we did a little, not really a driver swap, just like a apparel swap going down the road. And so this is Gavin Newton's shirt. And he was kind enough to let me use it. So, I mean, makes the paint schemes for me, makes the graphics for me, makes the fire suits for me.
That's why it looks so...
Gives me the shirt off
That's
his
why
back.
It looks so medium today.
Yes.
It's a size smaller than you preferred.
Yeah.
Listen, I go prepared in case traffic was horrible out there between construction and people not being able to drive. It was just, we were literally delayed an hour getting back. And so I'm like, I'd rather the driver look more professional than me. I'm the spotter. Like, I just stand up there and talk the whole time.
So you moved to your backup Dale Earnhardt's
which is actually Isaac's shirt.
So we were just doing a conga line of t-shirts.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
a backup to the backup to the backup.
That's perfect. That is spectacular.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else from the final thoughts side, Mr. Zach?
No, I don't think so off the top of my head. I posted some links in the chat. So if you go to the YouTube video, you can find Gavin's link to Gavin's Facebook page, and then also the link to the HT5, the sponsors page. But no, the weather looks like it shouldn't be horrible for you to race Friday, which is good because it's been awful the last couple of days, but it's supposed to break tonight, I think. So good luck there. What's the, not for racing, but you guys have been to a bunch of tracks. What's your favorite track to just be at?
Oh boy. Gosh.
You've been to Daytona too, right? You tested Daytona.
Well, yeah, right? I did test at Daytona this year. I would say, like, if you're going as a race fan, Daytona, hands down. You don't think so? I feel like just them having actual seats puts them above everywhere else, right?
I hate
metal
Daytona.
bleachers.
As from the perspective of somebody that has to either, try to get from the outside of the track to the infield, there's 2 tunnels. It's, Indianapolis, we're spoiled.
Oh, yeah,
We
you go
are
anywhere you want to.
spoiled.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to add one more just inside turn 1.
Yeah.
from stand
There
E
could be. You just need a boat.
into
It's hidden.
you have to. Anyway,
Daytona is just frustrating. Daytona and Charlotte, I think, are probably at the bottom of the list for me.
Really?
Number 1 for me that I have been to. I mean, I love Bristol. You see everything there. It's a fantastic racetrack to both watch and be able to walk around. Man, I'm just trying to think of. I really liked Dover too.
That was going to be my next.
Dover's
guess.
a really good
Dover.
track to go
Mhm.
to. Yeah.
Dover's good. You can see everything, and there's pretty good access, and no one's real strict. Kansas has a really nice staff and security. So there's a few tracks that you go to that, like, I went to Charlotte this year, and I was from me to this Tatanka sauce bottle across a line and got yelled at because I was where that was and not where I am right now. And so there's tracks like that where people just get on you just because they have the volunteer
whistle in the can.
They have the volunteer whistle and they think they can. But other tracks like Kansas is great.
I do think my favorite track I've been to is Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa, in my opinion, Iowa is probably the perfect racetrack.
Yeah.
It's not too big, not too small, has plenty of ways to get in and out of, and it's just, I think it's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mid-Ohio is cool to watch racing from, too. I like walking around Mid-Ohio. It's not great as far as, like, working.
Amenities. Zach
But,
and I call
yeah.
Mid-Ohio the county park of speed.
Yeah, because Road America calls itself the National Park of Speed.
Right.
And so
Yeah, that's fitting.
I'm not trying to knock Mid Ohio because I think Mid Ohio knows their place in the racing thing, and they're not trying to be Road America.
It's a time
but,
capsule.
The facilities are like a little bit aged. Like I did finally go into. I'd never been to the infield bathroom, and finally went to the infield bathroom this year. I'm like, oh, this is as rough as I've read about on the internet. But in its own way, it's an amazing place to go. And then the fans there, because it's in the middle of nowhere. Like Indy's awesome. I love Indy, but you get a bunch of riffraff in Indy because you can literally wander from a neighborhood to get to the track. Nobody's wandering to Mid Ohio.
No.
It is in the middle of nowhere. So the fans that are there are fans, and like they don't mess around. They're not doing a bunch of crazy stuff. So yeah, and I love Mid Ohio for what it is. I haven't got to expose anybody else in my family except my brother to Road America, so I want to get him up to Road America at some point. And you guys mentioned Watkins Glen. I'd love to go to Watkins Glen.
That was my sleeper. So that was my first big racetrack I went to as a human. 10 years old, I went to a SCCA race at Watkins Glen in like 93. And then I got to go back to the town a few times, but I've not gone back inside the facility since that time. But Watkins Glen is just unbelievable.
I do want to go to
gorgeous
Bristol,
area.
too.
Gorgeous. The town is awesome. The village.
I want to camp Bristol, and the only thing as I knew, like initially, I needed that you kind of have to have. I'm really OCD. Like when I camp, I like to go to a track. I don't ever leave. I never left the property Mid Ohio. When we camped the infield at Indy, 4 days, rolled in Thursday, roll out Sunday, never left the track. Like I want to have everything I need when I get there. And I know that Bristol's kind of like the ultimate of you better have your stuff in a row because you're kind of in the middle of nowhere a little bit, and then it's campers everywhere. So I do want to go camp Bristol just to say I've done it. I can kind of breeze a weekend at this point at a racetrack. So I think I've been ready for about a decade. I just haven't ever pulled the trigger to go down there.
I got to say, on the short track side of tracks, you're not going to find any track that's any better than Berlin Raceway. I mean, you can call it a home track bias, but that place is NASCAR level for short track drivers. It's incredible.
Don't they have like a giant missing wall in the backstretch?
So that is there. That is a very unique thing. It saves cars. You'd be surprised. There's a couple cars that go into the tires at the entry of 3. Like it happens. It's scary. It happens. But when it comes to the facilities, like that track is absolutely top notch. There are suites. There's a giant bar area right there in the middle. There's just a concourse, an actual concrete concourse. And, there's this bar right there and people can stand. I mean, they're little further back from the fence, but you can stand right there at the bar top, watch the race.
Yep.
It's a beautiful racetrack.
Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's Eldora.
Yep.
So
that's Berlin.
I will say, like, as far as fans, the two best tracks, Berlin and Iowa. Like he said, the fans at Berlin and Iowa are so passionate about racing. Like, there's some of the tracks we go to, like, there's warm bodies in the seats, but a lot of them aren't really that interested in what's going on, or they're not that passionate about it. Like, they're not up there, waving cars on, air pushing them off into the corner. And Berlin absolutely has that. The crowd, every single lap of the late model feature up there, the crowd was going insane. And then Iowa, both years at Iowa, like last year, remember, like, they really love their racing. And I kind of think of them as more IndyCar fans, because I feel like IndyCar's had such big events there the last couple of years. But even for the ARCA stuff, like, they packed the house this year for ARCA. There was a ton of people there, like more than most of any other race that we've had this year. But Iowa has great fans, Berlin has great fans, and I wish a lot more places were like that, because if the fans are pumped up and into it, so are we. So if the crowd's dead, then
Feels like a big event. It is a big event.
exactly. Yeah.
All right, Presley. What else have we forgotten? Anything else we need to plug? What's your car number? What's your manufacturer this weekend? What are we looking for? What's the car look like?
Number 12 Toyota Camry. It's white. I got black and red stripes on the side. Funny story about the iRacing to the reality stuff is this paint scheme actually started out as an iRacing paint scheme in 2021 that he made for me. And it's funny, like, the version of it this week was actually the original render that he made a few years ago. So the car on iRacing ended up being silver, but the original render that he made of it, it was white. So the white car.
You're telling me he got lazy and reused his work?
Listen,
He's just Control C, Control V, and just everywhere.
We worked on this car in person,
Mm-hmm.
and we were doing some things, and it just wasn't clicking. And I'm like, I know what we can do, and I threw it on there, and he's like, that's it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And the original render version, like the white, had never been raced before till this week.
I'm gonna ask Gavin one more question. Favorite paint scheme / livery of any series anywhere?
That he's made, right?
Or no, not that you've made, just your favorite.
Oh man, well, I'll give you my favorite Jimmy Johnson car, and then I'll give you another driver, because you always got to have one to your favorite driver. For me, it's either a toss up between the 2007 Jimmy Johnson Foundation car that he won with at Fontana, had light blue on it, dark blue. It was the same base design, but I mean, I just love the neon yellow with the light blue and the dark blue and the white on it. It was a beautiful car. And then I also love the 2017 Primary. It's a pretty simple car. Just the stripes on it are at 48 degrees, which I think is just a beautiful touch on it.
Nerd.
And,
all right.
I know that.
But when it comes to the regular paint schemes, honestly, I loved Adam Petty's car,
The 45 Sprint.
the sprint car.
Sprint car, yeah.
Yeah, just I don't know what it is about that car, and I don't really like red very much, but I love that car.
Yeah. I mean, I've got total nostalgia for me is like any of like the 1993 NASCAR season was like it for me, right? So like Ernie Irvin's 28 car, Rusty Wallace's Miller Genuine Draft number 2, those are right there. The 7 Hooters car with Alan Kulwicki in it. Those,
right.
I mean, those are all just wheelhouse for me. IndyCar, it's the Pennzoil. People get upset if you call it Yellow Submarine.
Mike
There was only one of them.
Mike
but
Thompson gets
the
Yellow Submarine.
the yellow car with the black, and it's literally my cup that I've got that I bring on here. John Andretti won in this Pennzoil scheme at Surfers Paradise. Any IndyCar with that classic Penske pinstriping is just, I'm fully anti-Penske at this point, but that car is a special place in my heart no matter what.
Good weekend
Always.
for you at IndyCar last year.
Yeah.
Last weekend then.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
All
all
right.
I've got.
Fantastic. Anything else we need, Presley?
I don't think so. Just watch for us. Fox Sports 1, 5:30 on Friday, being the number 12 car. So one of, I think, I'm guessing 5 Indiana drivers, I want to say. I haven't looked at the full entry list, but I think 5 by my calculations.
So a lot of these guys actually are my clients.
That's true.
So we got Zachary.
You're going to win no matter what.
Zachary Tinkle.
Yeah.
definitely the best looking cars. I can tell you that 100%. Zachary
He's gained a
Tinkle.
certain amount of cockiness in the last 18 months that wasn't there.
Listen, you gotta carry some confidence, you know. Zachary Tinkle, Isaac Johnson, Brayton Laster, Presley. I'm sure there's another one that I don't work with, but you know, it's really cool to see the Hoosiers represent for this race.
It's very cool. Special shout out to Andrew and Megan Bowman. They are very reluctantly not going to be attending because Megan is due to have their second child at any moment. I said, look, this is a full Tim Wilson song. If Megan goes and has their unnamed daughter in the grandstand at IRP, and she can name it Dale, Darrell, Walter, Richard Petty, Awesome Bill, Earnhardt Gordon, Jr., Johnson, Smith, Jr., Bowman. But they won't do that for me. But they could. They could go viral. You deliver a kid at the ARCA race. That's as good as it gets. So congratulations to Andrew and Megan.
I don't know.
Be born in Claremont, Indiana. It's a great story, and they're really failing the opportunity for what could be. Our show will not be back next week because some people are vacationing. Your next program will be August 1st. Sean Rao has canceled on me 7 times.
Tentatively planned.
Sean Rao has canceled on me more times. He's the attorney that we don't pay. And I'm sure he has like murder trials and stuff going on. But Sean has penciled in us for August 1st. If we don't get him, we'll make something up. But we'll see you then. Thank you guys. Good luck.
Thanks.
Get a trophy.